Welcome to Haven. We're glad you're here. Let us know where you're watching from. We're trying to be a church for people that don't go to church for whatever reason. So if that's you, most welcome and glad you're here. We're talking about our circumstances and how they can change dramatically and how maybe God can intervene in them. So very interesting topic, and I think relevant for us today when the world is a place that seems to change it every day. We've got Brooke again with us, and Philip, great to have you here with us too.
Good to be here.
So talking about the subject of change and life circumstances, has there been a time for you where you've had a productive time in your life recently, where you've seen lots happen, maybe in a day or a short period?
Well, I guess I can plunge in.
Yeah.
Actually, and this is probably not a popular answer, but COVID has been a good season for me because it's forced me to focus on the things that are important and let the things that are less important sort of drift away a bit to the side. And so I've achieved a lot of important things during this season, and I'm talking, the last 18 months.
Oh, right.
So, excepting for the inconvenience of not being able to travel, I love travel, and things like that. It's been a good season, and on any number of occasions, there's been significant issues that I've had to deal with. I'm involved in a mentoring program around Australia and overseas, and because we have been so focused on some of these situations, there have been quite a number of occasions when, in just a day of time, circumstances that seemed incredibly complex were turned around, unravelled.
Yeah.
Hand of God.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
Brooke, what about you?
Well, my experience is probably a little bit different in that, like, for me, I can so rarely point to any single particular moment or day. But for me, usually when I sort of see something change, there's usually this ability to kind of say, oh, that and that and that were kind of the lead in. And, even for me with COVID, that kind of lockdown, slowdown had just kind of helped me get into a newer season with my walk with Christ. And so that all kind of got a little bit more time value, I suppose. And so, but now, like, looking at where things are now, I'm like, oh, I'm so grateful that season of preparation has happened and growth and all those sorts of things. So yeah, I think, there are definitely moments where you go, oh yes, that was definitely a God thing. But yeah, I can sort of usually look back a little bit and go, oh, actually there were some things in preparation for that, which I'm really grateful for.
Sure.
What about you?
What about you in the chat?
Yeah.
Put it in.
And
I
you?
could tell you when an unproductive time has been, and
Okay.
that's probably since having kids.
Yeah.
It's been less productive.
I
But that's
remember.
okay.
I remember.
Yeah, that's a season of life, and
Yes.
it's good to slow down, and do things at sort of the kid level for a bit.
Yes.
So it's not all about being productive sometimes. Sometimes it's worth slowing down.
Yes.
But we're going to look at an interesting Bible passage now. One that I'm sure you'll be scratching your head over, perhaps. But that's why I've got Philip here to explain it for us. But it's from the Old Testament and talks about a time when the sun stood still in the sky. So let's go to that now. And if you have any thoughts and questions about that, we'll answer them here. Send them in to the number on the screen.
Now Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, heard that Joshua had taken Ai and totally destroyed it, doing to Ai and its king as he had done to Jericho and its king, and that the people of Gibeon had made a treaty of peace with Israel and had become their allies. He and his people were very much alarmed at this, because Gibeon was an important city, like one of the royal cities. It was larger than Ai, and all its men were good fighters. So Adonizedek, king of Jerusalem, appealed to Horam, king of Hebron, Piram, king of Jarmuth, Japhia, king of Lachish, and Deborah, king of Eglon. Come up and help me attack Gibeon, he said, because it has made peace with Joshua and the Israelites. Then the 5 kings of the Amorites, the kings of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon, joined forces. They moved up with all their troops and took up positions against Gibeon and attacked it. The Gibeonites then sent word to Joshua in the camp at Gilgal. Do not abandon your servants. Come up to us quickly and save us. Help us, because all the Amorite kings from the hill country have joined forces against us. So Joshua marched up from Gilgal with his entire army, including all the best fighting men. The Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid of them. I have given them into your hand. Not one of them will be able to withstand you. After an all-night march from Gilgal, Joshua took them by surprise. The Lord threw them into confusion before Israel. So Joshua and the Israelites defeated them completely at Gibeon. Israel pursued them along the road, going up to Beth Horon, and cut them down all the way to Azekah and Makkedah. As they fled before Israel on the road down to Beth Horon to Azekah, the Lord hurled huge hailstones down on them, and more of them died from the hail than they were killed by the swords of the Israelites. On the day the Lord gave the Amorites over to Israel, Joshua said to the Lord in the presence of Israel, Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and you, moon, over the valley of Ajalon. So the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, till the nation avenged itself on its enemies. As it is written in the book of Jasher, the sun stopped in the middle of the sky and delayed going down about a full day. There has never been a day like it, before or since, a day when the Lord listened to a human being. Surely the Lord was fighting for Israel. Then Joshua returned with all Israel to the camp at Gilgal.
Whew, a lot going on there.
Yes, indeed.
Why is this passage still relevant for us today, Philip?
Well, I think it's quite apart from the really weird supernatural stuff that went on. It just demonstrates that God will intervene in the lives of ordinary men and women, whatever the circumstances might be. That's the big take home for me.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. I think for me, when I read that and I think, okay, so there is plenty of room for questioning there. There's plenty of room for going, what on earth happened? What is going on? And I think that scientific minds will really latch on here and go, hang on a second, there's a lot that I want answers to. And I think what's one of the most amazing things is that God is able to take our questions, and when we look at those questions with faith and we go, okay, well, God is holy and he cares and he's looking to help me understand him, understand, his creation, all those sorts of things. It's actually a beautiful journey instead of a, how can this possibly be, and leading us away from him. Actually, it can lead us deeper in. And so when we have those questions and we're looking at it with the God help me understand, I think that positions us very differently, would you say?
Yeah, I think you're right, Brooke. I think, though, a trap is to try and always get to the bottom of the explanation and miss the real issue.
Yeah.
And the real issue is what I said at the beginning, that God will intervene in the lives of ordinary men and women, quite apart from trying to get your head around the, we've got to admit it, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Yeah.
But it can be arguably scientifically reinforced.
So God's interested in what's going on in the lives of people and will intervene.
Yep.
So have you ever seen a situation, maybe not this dramatic, but a situation where God has intervened and changed things dramatically?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Like, do you want to hear about one?
Yeah, please.
Okay. Well, I spoke about it earlier in the church service that preceded this table talk. The day that my wife and I got married, we got married on the 22nd of February 1972. which is also the day that a cyclone crossed the coast, crossed Redcliffe, where we were living. And all the predictions were that it was going to be an incredibly destructive storm. And as I talked about earlier, we prayed about it. We believe prayer changes things. And so we just said to God, this is a big day for us. There's a lot of stuff going on in other people's lives, but could you just pay attention to us and let this wedding go ahead? And the storm petered out. The newspaper headlines of the day even say, surprisingly, the winds abated, were much less severe than they expected.
Yeah.
A lot of rain. I remember it just rained and rained and rained. But the cyclone was pretty well a non-event.
Oh,
Now, that was an intervention in a day.
Yeah. I have a wedding story, actually.
You do, yeah.
Now that I think of it. We were having wedding photos taken, and the day that we chose to get married, my husband and I, it was a ridiculously hot day.
Yeah.
Summertime wedding in Queensland here, and we were quite honestly flagging during the photos, and we were just like, we ended up praying together, Lord, we are just getting so weary with this heat. We just need relief. And a breeze came through, and for our photo session then there was a nice breeze, and everyone treasures their photos from their weddings, and so that was a beautiful moment for us. Was we had come together and just said, Lord, we need your help in this moment. And that was a little thing like a breeze, and it's yeah.
And the thing is, people can say that sort of stuff is just coincidental.
Yes.
Arguable,
Yeah.
but it happens too consistently in my life, and I'm guessing in your life, Brooke, for there to be that many coincidences.
Yes, that's right.
God is interested in our personal day.
Yeah. Yeah.
What about when God doesn't intervene? There have been times where you've prayed and nothing's happened.
So what are you asking?
Oh,
What do we do?
What's our response there? Yeah. So I imagine there's times for you as well that
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
nothing's happened.
Definitely. I mean, I've lived a lot more life than you guys, and I've learned just to wait. When it doesn't happen, when I don't get that intervention, faith plays an enormous part in living a peaceful kind of life. And I've just learned over a long period of time now that if it doesn't happen the way I want, to trust God and just wait. It doesn't mean that later on I get the answer I want, but over time I get an explanation at least of why that didn't happen the way I wanted it to happen or the way I prayed. So, my short answer is, what do? You just wait.
Have you had times of waiting, Brooke?
Yeah, we do. We hope for things and thinks that things are going to be, exactly as we dream. And when they don't go that way, we do have, I think as Christians, we kind of expect sometimes that things will go our way. And when they don't, we kind of do have those wrestles of like, oh, but God, you're supposed to, fight for me. And I think that's where we then have to align ourselves with the fact that, maybe we don't know it all yet. And the unfolding, the waiting, and the choosing to wait peacefully and actually going back to his presence, not shutting him off then and saying, well, you've done the wrong thing by me, God. Well, it's never like that. It's actually, how do I find that peace in that waiting? How do I keep walking with him and in a gratitude of heart, knowing that actually time and time again he's shown that he will work it out. He will do as he promises, to look after me, to care for me, to give me the hopes and dreams that I don't even realize are inside of me, that he knows.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is faith is so key in those times. I haven't always been a pastor. I spent more than a decade in the military, and I had the incredible privilege of being a Christian in the army. and was able to talk to a lot of guys about faith issues. And the big difference I noticed was when things didn't go right for them, there was a lot of turmoil, there was a lot of angst, and they were always attracted to the fact that I could just relax and say, I don't get this, God, but I trust you anyway, and sooner or later I'll understand. And it was an attraction because I had quite a number of guys over the years I was in the army come to me and say, how can you just accept that? Well, because God's in control and I just believe that.
Yeah.
And you've seen,
I don't have to have all the answers.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of folk who are outside of faith have always got to have an answer for it. And that just messes with your head.
Yeah, I guess just going to God just to try if it works sort of thing is probably quite a common thing. And then if they don't get the response they're looking for, I'll give up on God and woe is me sort of response.
Yeah.
But you're saying it's more of a journey, a relationship, a coming to understand over time rather than just a quick fix. Let's go to God for a quick answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
I think about the fact that trees, you know, how the winds and things actually strengthen trees,
Yeah,
like the fact that they actually drive their roots down a little bit deeper. They, you know, and we know that actually forests of trees are actually much stronger than individual trees. So that's why, you know, in your backyard, if you've got one lone gum tree, you're kind of watching it a bit carefully when the storms come, because they don't have the support of the others around them. And then they also don't have the deep roots if the winds and things haven't been able to reach them, and they haven't actually stood that test of growth, which I think is an interesting parallel too.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that, Brooke, about trees.
There you go.
Oh, great. Good medical group. But we used to dramatic change in life. We've become used to it with COVID-19, lockdowns almost within a day. Suddenly we can't go anywhere.
Surprise.
How do you see God at work? People might wonder, how do we see God at work in these sorts of times? Any response there, Brooke?
Well, God works at me by building my patience, because we don't necessarily do a lot. We don't necessarily go everywhere and all that sort of stuff. But it's funny how just simply having that kind of blanket of this is the requirement at the moment. Isn't it interesting how our nature rises up and goes, oh, but I just want to, as soon as there's an imposition on our sense of freedom, we really do have to then, you know, work through that with character. We have to say, okay, well, what is the good response here? I can't just lash out at my family because we're all stuck here in the house and we can't do whatever we might have been able to do. And you know, I think those sorts of things, those character moments really come into play there, don't they? Like,
That's good.
That's excellent. It really is. I mean, you know, how do we see God at work in this COVID season? Man, it's hard to answer, excepting to say it's at least an opportunity to grow as people, as develop character, and learn some life lessons.
I can't always have what I want. What? No.
And I think it's what I said a minute ago. I really couldn't give a brilliant answer to that, because it's one of those things where you just got to trust God. You know,
Yeah.
I don't think God has brought this about, but he knows about it,
Yeah.
and it's no surprise to him, and that's all I need to know.
Yeah.
And I think when we actually then say, okay, well, God, I need your help, isn't that a beautiful moment then to
Yeah.
like, I'm not coping with this, God. If I'm
Yeah.
honest with you, I don't like this. I want to be free. I want to be able to do whatever I want to do. And you know, and so those, I mean, it's like the Psalms, isn't it? Where, you know, we see that wrestle of the honesty with God, and you know, he invites us to be honest with him in reverence, you know, and actually then come around to seeing, oh, actually you really do care for the long run. It's not just this moment, it's bigger than this.
Yeah, I had an aha moment.
Yeah.
I was talking to a very elderly person of 96 years of age, and I was just talking about the inconveniences and the wearing down aspect of COVID. And this lady looked at me and said, I lived through World War II. You got nothing to talk about compared to what we had to go. And it sort of, right, it sort of woke me up a little bit to the fact that, I might feel a bit inconvenienced, but some of these older guys, older than me guys, they've experienced a lot more.
Perspective comes into it a lot.
Yeah.
I think of Jesus on the boat with his disciples and a huge storm comes up, and just the comparison of Jesus sleeping there, he's perfectly calm, disciples in complete panic, the same situation. And what's the difference? Jesus knows God can change things in an instant. He's not worried. No, yes, that might look very threatening, but he knows that God knows about it. He's not worried. And I guess even just the fact that we can know that God can change the situation when he wants to, and at the right time, I think just that knowledge, even if we don't see it, can help us get through things and build the character like you're talking about. So what's the day that's changed the world more than any other day in your opinion? If we're talking about days that have changed the world, any that come to mind?
Who wants to go first? We might have the same angle on this one. I have no question that the greatest day in human history was the day that Jesus Christ died on the cross at Calvary, because it changed history. At the moment, they're trying to, they're successfully changing AD and BC because it's not politically correct anymore. But, all of history hinges on that moment. But the deal is that before the cross, before Jesus died on the cross, man was struggling to relate to God. He really, had all these rules and regulations he had to go through. It really was religion rather than personal relationship. But after the cross, ordinary people, regardless of how bad we might be, had equal opportunity for intimate relationship with God. It changed the world, and as a consequence, hundreds of millions of people, in fact, Christianity is still the largest faith in the world, and it's growing faster than any other faith, regardless of what some people would tell you. Ask Mr. Google, he will back that up. Millions, thousands every day are coming to Christ because of that event at Calvary in Jerusalem, a bit over 2,000 years ago. Greatest day in history, no doubt.
Great.
What's interesting about it is that, yes, it's the greatest day, but wasn't it interesting that we had to then travel the next couple of days? And or the disciples did, they had that moment, but then they were waiting for breakthrough. Like it's, it seemed like the darkest hour from their perspective. And so again, but God knew, and he, he just had it. He had it.
Yeah, and the good news is that's a real thing that we can experience today, not just a historical fact. Can continue to change even your life today. So if you need prayer, reach out to us, message that number on the screen. More than happy to pray for you about anything and join with you in faith that God will intervene in whatever you're going through. But thank you for joining us today, and it'd be great if you could join us through the week as well. Details on our website. But I hope you have a great week and no more COVID lockdowns for a while, hey?
That'd be nice.
All right. Thanks, Brooke. Thanks, everyone.